so long. 22 years, you guys. You were probably ashamed. That's all right. Bill's with me, so we make it work, right? Right. I'm going to do a kids panel today, so I'm all ready for the kids. Those scientists.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. Oh man, so much one of my real big goals is trying to get panels to be different, so more interactive for the audience. I'm always looking to do other things, especially at DragonCon, that allows me to be like, I don't know if this will work, but okay. All right, I'm ready whenever. So.
Ready? You ready?
Yep, I got my good omens and I'm good.
Let's kick it off.
Do it.
Hey, hello. Oh, it does work. Excellent.
Oh.
It's
I don't have to
10
use just teacher voice
No.
today. I mean, I was ready for teacher voice.
There's microphones.
There's microphones, but you have to lean in like
Yeah,
close like
lean
this,
in
and it's
very
not
close.
necessarily like there's a different vibe.
Absolutely. Woo! It's 10 o'clock. Hello. Hi. Welcome to WebComics in this economy. Thank you for joining us so early. Yay! Oh my gosh. All right. Before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, we are going to talk about the charity, the DragonCon Partner Charity, which this year it is NAMI, the Georgia branch. You are not alone. No matter how you have been affected by mental illness, please know that you are welcome here. Their goals are to advocate at the county, state, and national levels with access to quality healthcare, housing, education, and employment for people with mental illness. Educate the public about mental illness. Work to eliminate the stigma of mental illness and support individuals and family affected by mental illness. There is a lovely, beautiful QR code here that we're going to stick right in the middle of the table next to our other QR code, which we'll talk about in a bit. And DragonCon matches all
You know
of the
what?
donations.
Can we have somebody dash up here? And I'd like to have somebody take this, and we're going to pass it around the audience. And for those who want to scan it, they can scan it. That's all I
Perfect.
want.
We
Thank
can
you
do
so
that
much for
too.
Exactly. It's called pass the plate, baby.
Pass the plate.
Rock and roll.
Perfect. It's all about your preference. Okay. Before we get started, I need to kind of gauge the audience a little bit. How many of you already have a webcomic? All right. We got a couple over there. Perfect. Amazing. How many of you don't have one yet, but you are thinking about starting? Get your hands in there. Come on, don't be shy. That's awesome. All right. So you're probably here to learn how to kind of get that started. So let me go ahead and have all of the panelists introduce themselves, because guess what? They're all really freaking good at webcomics, and they're going to tell you how to do it. Why don't we start with you?
With me?
With you.
My name is Vic Insta, pronouns they, them. I've been making comics on and off in a variety of ways for I thought about it the other day, 15 to 20 years or something. And plus a bunch of other film and animation and visual storytelling and things. I have a webcomic called Destiny and Dragoons, which is based on a D&D game that I've been playing forever. So I'll be making that comic until I die. I illustrator, storyteller, stuff like that.
Run that gamut.
I have a lot of hobbies.
So many.
All right. Hey, how's it going? I'm Comfort Love, and I'm of Comfort and Adam. Adam's not here because we got too many sketches. FYI, I need more people to do sketches. Word in Artist Alley, because it's getting tough out there. We're one of a dwindling few. Something for later. Anyways, I do comics like The Unique Rainbow in the Dark Kitty Game. I did a big how-to book for Random House called The Complete Guide to Self-Publishing Comics. And many gaming projects and stuff like that all throughout my career. I've been doing this for 22 years. I do a whole lot of stuff for nonprofits these days. Didn't mean to, but here I am. You never know where the world will take you, and that's also part of the journey. So, who's this?
I'm Bill Holbrook. I draw the comic strip Kevin and Cal, which debuted 30 years ago this weekend. It is now the longest continually running webcomic.
Yeah!
Anniversary.
Hold that title.
Heck yeah. am KCD. I have been making webcomics a really long time, but my most recent venture I've been working on for about 8 years. I have a webcomic called Beside You. It's a gay romance comic that takes place in the early 2000s. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here. All right. We're going to have some fun. Let me just throw out the most ridiculous, nebulous question to you all. Of all the possible things that we creators could make, why the heck are we making webcomics?
Hands up here who is interested in making webcomics for all the cash money that it rakes in.
Oh, about that.
We have appropriately set expectations in the room. I like that. That's great.
I feel like if you're making webcomics, you have a story to tell, right? You have something in your heart that needs to come out because this isn't an easy job. It's a freaking hard job. And it will take most of your time. But because this is important to you and potentially important to the world, you're going to get out every day and you're going to do this work and you're going to make something great. And we're here to help you do that.
I started Kevin and Kel even though I was doing a newspaper syndicated comic. But what I really wanted to do was tell stories, which is hard to do with newspapers because a person only has the newspaper right in front of them that day, so it's hard to do a continuity in a newspaper format. But when the internet came along, it was like a thunderstorm flew in my head. I said, wait, you can have archives online. Again, this was 1995. So that's why I created Kevin and Kel, to tell stories about a rabbit and a wolf who have an unconventional relationship. And it was the medium of the online experience with archives that led me to do a webcomic.
All right. All right.
Amazing.
How'd you get that?
Why did I get into webcomics? Great question. Listen, the time I started this project was a tumultuous time in our very existence in this country, and I just needed a little bit of an escape from the real world. Accidentally started writing a script. It turned into 10 pages, and I thought, oh, might have something here. And ultimately, I think I've always wanted to tell stories, like you said, and this was something that I could do by myself, that I had full control over. I could write it, I could draw it. I didn't have to have any sort of other person come in and have any sort of creative control. And it was just a really empowering way to get my story out there. It was the most accessible way for me to tell my story.
I got into it again, like very much the same thing, because I wanted to tell stories because I couldn't not do it, I think is the way I'd frame it.
Compulsive.
And I assume we're all writing and drawing.
Yes.
Hands up, I'd love to know how many people here are writers versus artists versus both. So anybody just the writer part of the equation for comics? Okay, yeah, because teaming up with artists is also like part of the challenge. How many people just the artist portion? Okay,
There's your friends right there.
yeah.
Team up.
Time to talk.
And how many people are both? I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Both is good.
Both is good.
It's
It's a lot of work, but
Have
it's
a lot of good editors. Don't just go out and do it. Have people look at your shit.
Exactly. All right. So the first part of this panel is going to be for the people who haven't yet made a webcomic, or maybe thinking about it, and maybe haven't started. Maybe you're having a little bit of reservations about it, and hopefully we're gonna try and get your little motor going. Hey guys, I got a question for you. I can't make a comic. I don't know the right way to do it. What are the rules?
No rules.
No rules, just rules.
No, the thing is that the business changes. Like I had said for the people who were there last night, or Courtney and I quit, by the way, but yeah. So changes every 3 to 5 years. Like rules, sweetheart, I wish there was rules. Then I could really like master things. But the reality is every time you're gonna master something, it's gonna slip out from under you. You gotta find a new way to do things. As we all know, or I bet a lot of you got used to, Webtoon. And Webtoon was really, really, really big from around 2016 to 2000. I guess you could bring it through the pandemic, through like 20. And then slowly but surely, Webtoon, like everything, has been losing followers and stuff like that. That's for a lot of reasons. But now, the question becomes, what's that next thing? And so that's where the tough part comes in. But you can do it. You just have to make your own rules.
I've spoken to a lot of people trying to make comics as well in terms of writing comics. With something like a film script or a stage play, there's a lot of actual sort of industry standard formats and conventions for the scripts. No such beast exists for comics. There are certain expectations, I think, depending on which industry you work with, but like there's a lot of talk if you work in traditional comics, the difference between the Marvel method of scripting, which is they just write basically a description of what happens, and then the artist goes ham with it, and then they add dialogue after that. And then you have the hyper-prescriptive types of script, but there's actually no specific format. And the other fun thing about being your own creator and property is that if you're doing it all yourself, you can do it like no one else sees it.
Y'all should see my scripts. They would not be accepted anywhere.
If I can, though, like as a on-off teacher since, I was 13, and as somebody who wrote the book on self-publishing and stuff like that, and who's been doing this a long time, can I recommend, please don't do the Marvel style thing. It's very messy legally. It's also very messy for, you creating the stories that you want to create. There are ways to do even your scripts that, are pretty easy. Like, you've got your, panel description, then you have your dialogue underneath. It's similar to like a stage play, but slightly different. Get it structured out. Like the thing that I was saying with your editors, baby, get a few editors. I want you to have at least 2 that read through your scripts beforehand and make sure that shit is tight, because it takes this long to write something. It takes that long to draw something. It takes this long to edit your writing. It takes that long to edit your drawing. See what I'm saying? Since this game is all about time, I want you to save those pennies for when it really counts. So do it right the first time.
Oh, one thing about collaboration between artists and writers, if you're doing a collaboration, get an agreement in writing. Because if something hits big and there's actually money coming in, you will need a agreement in force so that there's not bad things happening down the road.
Want to wind up in a Tony Moore and
Yeah.
Walking Dead situation.
Yeah.
I have a question. What happens, like, if you can't make a comic because you don't have the right tech? I'd love to know, Phil, like starting in '95, like the difference of tech then versus now.
Yeah, when I started in '95, I didn't even have Photoshop. I had a friend who that I mailed Xeroxes to,
I love that.
and he put it online, and that went on for about 3 years until I got Photoshop in 1998. But yeah, it was very much a from the Stone Age.
Yeah. Does tech feel like a barrier to anybody else? Is that a common sort of thing holding up, or is everybody? Yeah, it's a common thing, I think.
I mean, okay. I started drawing on lined notebook paper. I have so many just crappy, like 10-cent lined notebook papers full of comics. Like, you can start with a paper and pencil. You can start with you know what? I recommend you do start with bad paper, because you are going to just get all your ideas down and you're not going to hold anything precious. If you get like a nice sort of Moleskine with that really nice paper, you're going to be like, oh no, I can't draw on this. It's too bright. It's too perfect. I can't. You're gonna get all up in your head about it. So get yourself some newsprint just to start off with. That's what I say. And then eventually, once you kind of get the groove of things, you can work yourself up to an iPad or a Wacom tablet, Cintiq.
Yeah, my first step is on a legal pad.
Yeah.
I used to draw everything on copy paper. My first webcomic back in 2007, and I drew it all on copy paper. I found an ink that didn't bleed too much when I used it, and then I scanned the picture, and then I meticulously went through and deleted the because I didn't know anything about multiply layers and things like that at that point. Oh, it was painful.
Adorable.
It took too long for me to figure that out. And I deleted the white space in the middle, and then I colored it digitally, and I did it that way.
There's so many people. There was actual like real professionals, and this is the tough thing too with like teaching and getting information out there and the internet. I met so many colors, professional Marvel and DC colors that colored the worst way, that made their files huge, that were completely unruly, that they took what would have been this long and made it that long. And it's just because some other person that didn't quite know that what they were doing with new technology was like, yeah, this way. And everybody was like, yeah, that way. So the point is too, is always be asking questions, right? When we're saying no rules, you don't have to just be like, well, people said that way. And you can be like, well, we'll learn that. But what else? The curiosity is what makes you dynamic as a creator.
I love it. Good stuff. Going back to working with a team for a minute. How do I work with a team? I don't have a team. How am I going to make a webcomic if I don't have a team?
Yeah, because there's a lot of work, and this is why I feel the struggle of people being like, I'm just me. But when you're watching people, especially on things like Webtoon, like that platform, or looking at the sort of rate at which comic books are produced and released in like the traditional market, the polish that is achieved with the speed that it is achieved in sets a sort of intimidating precedent about how polished and incredible looking your work has to look, and how quickly you have to be able to like post it and things like that, and it becomes unsustainable. So I feel like it sets a kind of a bad standard that you feel like you're supposed to achieve right out of the gate, which in reality, like most of us are doing other things with our time other than just doing our webcomics 24/7. There's a load of other commitments and things, there always is. So I think working with a team, if you are an artist looking for a writer, or a writer looking for an artist, that team up can be really, really valuable. I think it's also fine to seek support from colorists and people to help you achieve something, because if you want to achieve it at a certain standard, then there's ways to do so with the support of other people, and that's a collab opportunity.
Yeah, my personal struggle is with coloring. I'm just not that good at it. So for Kevin and Kel, for 20 years, my colorists have been a husband and wife team named Terrence and Isabel Marks, who are wonderful. They are fantastic, and they provide so much to the strip, and I just want to shout out to them and thank them for over 2 decades of work that they've really made my work look better.
So collaborating with people, I've done a whole lot of collaborating with people, and I've led teams and all that other kind of stuff. So it is true that comics take a lot. I'm gonna reveal some things about even traditional like Marvel, DC, Image comics and stuff like that. There are a lot of times where they're like, oh yeah, there's just a writer and like an artist, and then you're like, wow, that writer and artist are on a lot of books. Jeff Johns is on 12 books. How does he do it? This other artist is on like 7 books. How do they do it? They have teams. They don't credit them. Like, it's known in anime circles, manga circles, and manhwa, blah blah blah. Like, yes, you do have teams, right? Classically, people move up from that team But in America, we don't usually say that. We keep it on the DL, right? And that makes that expectation for you feel really intimidating, right? Because they have those secret teams there that are doing a lot of that heavy lifting to keep people going. What I want you to do is I want you to figure out what can you handle right now, right? There are webcomics that are different. You know, you don't have to do a big multi-page thing like I do. That's all right. Maybe you're not here. There are some like there's one on Webtoon called Zomcom. I mean, and Zomcom will sometimes have 1 to 3 panels, and that's it. I like the nods from the audience because Zomcom's real cute, and that's nice and simple. It's still a lot of work for Emmy and anybody that sometimes on and off will work with her, but that is doable. Start small, but still think big, right? I want you to do this for you, and you're going to work your way up. You're going to find that team. Then as you do, and you can finance things or whatever, you're going to grow this and create that epic story that you wish you would have. It was the folly of me. I started Uniques, which was my epic story first. I had to go back and redo those first issues. Yikes. You don't want to be there. Start small, work big later.
Absolutely. Another common sort of thing I think that stops people is hosting places. Like, where do you actually put your comic once it exists? I think that a lot of the horror stories you hear about the platforms that steal the rights to your comic, or the platforms that are gonna not give you the visibility you want, or where they have certain types of audiences that tend to frequent them, and you don't want to get involved with any and all reasons. Not to mention just the expense of, well, I don't have my own custom website with all bells and whistles and domain and everything like that. Where did you start with your webcomic?
I found the simple webcomic theme on Tumblr, and I started just posting there. I know a tiny bit of HTML from the good old days of GeoCities, and I customized that theme to what I wanted. And then eventually I started cross-posting to Tapas and Webtoons just to get like a little more of an outreach so people could discover it more organically without me having to like constantly post on my socials like, hey, my comic updated. So yeah, I have those 3 sites. They all mirror each other, and it's been very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of free platforms. I think that there's a bit of flexibility that you can do if you have the time to do it. You can find the platform that suits you best. My comics moved platforms and moved sites a couple times. I've been on, I think my first comic was on Smack Jeeves back in the day, and a lot of on WordPress, and then I'm currently hosting my webcomic through Comic Fury, and so I just sort of pass it off as a site redesign, but actually I'm moving it to a completely different platform every time. And then I just have the domain that I've got pointing at it directly. So for me, it's like, get the domain. If you can put any money into anything, put the money into the domain, because you can then make the domain point where you need it to go and then change its price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started in a very bizarre way when I created Kevin and Kel. My idea was to offer the strip to other websites for $5 a week. This is kind of like the newspaper syndicate model for the web. It didn't work because with the web you have no exclusivity. I mean, you can access any site as well as any other site. That kind of collapsed after a year. So what happened is that one of the guys who had been paying for Kevin and Kel to be posting for $5 a week had a website for it, which I eventually ended up buying from him, and he became the webmaster of Kevin and Kel, and that's where you see kevinandkel.com today. But it came through a very backdoor way. Basically, when I started the strip, I was trying pretty much every kind of business model you could think of. I was just trying to throw things against the wall. Did they work? Banner ads? No, that didn't work. But that finally ended up being supported by patrons, which is a whole other topic, I guess.
Yeah. Then another thing is like in terms of longevity of your comic, do think about having your own dedicated web page, something like a free WordPress at minimum or something like that. Even as a mirror to something like Webtoon, because a platform can just disappear overnight and there goes your archive. So it's good to have a place that it lives that you do own yourself in some capacity possible.
Alrighty. So I hope we've given you a little bit of advice as far as like those who want to start making a web comic. Now I kind of want to throw it out to people who have started making a web comic. How do you keep going with it? How do you keep going with it? I need all of you, and this extends to those who haven't made a web comic yet. That microphone right there in the middle, that is for you to come up and ask whatever questions you want. And if nobody has questions, we're just gonna keep talking.
Oh, baby, I know y'all have questions.
Y'all have questions.
Yeah.
What is stopping you from making a web comic? What is stopping you from continuing your web comic? If you hit any sort of like a roadblock, come up, ask about it, tell us about it. We'll see if we can get you unstuck.
And here's another question. How many people have actually started a webcomic and then it sort of trailed off into nothing? Or how many people have started multiple webcomics hoping to kind of get it going and get that staying power? I have. It took me like 5 different webcomic tries because I was like, I to tell stories. I want to do a webcomic. And the ones I started with were not the right format. So I had several, here's my new project, and 3 or 4 strips in, that was that. So I've got an archive of started but not continued comics. I know that's oftentimes is
The
part of the
detritus
challenge.
of the job.
Yes. Like for people who do achieve comics and do manage to actually achieve that consistency, you see the end result of the one that did sustain. And you don't necessarily see the ones along the way that were part of that process. So you will see the end of something, not the behind the scenes that feels like, well, you got it right first time. Didn't. No one does. Questions.
Oh, it's so tall. It's so tall. That's rude. No. That's okay. I'm gonna talk real loud. So you're talking about starting the webcomic and getting it all launched and everything and all that. How many strips, issues, all of that do you put in the can before you start releasing to give yourself that cushion once you have kicked off?
I started with a 2-month cushion, and I still have it.
Good on
Well
you.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for that.
Yay.
That's impressive.
That is so impressive.
Yeah. I'm doing strips now for November.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What you do?
That's, yeah.
Guys, if you're going to do a more illustrated comic, so, I think all of us do more illustrated stuff, and you guys can tell me, but, like, I'm even looking at your pages, and I feel like it's highly likely, especially with your black and white, that you're doing it in comic form before you're putting it out, right, in a maybe called Webtoon strip.
I actually, mine I keep in the traditional shape. I just do it one time. I don't format it for the other platforms.
So, yeah, I make mine in the page form first, and then I reformat it into the actual strips. And so those are every scene, so that's every 2 to 3 pages or so, give or take. That's gonna go and be a chapter. But my rule is generally I like to work at least 2 issues ahead, and that's probably going to be about 5-ish months of content. So that's where I like to.
I'm gonna hold my hand up and reveal bad habits on the other end of the spectrum. But, I'm gonna make these mistakes so that you don't have to. I typically, my goal is to be 4 weeks ahead. And then I've had occasions where I've had a bad month, and I have burned through that backlog because I have it's like 1 week where you're like, okay, I didn't get to it this week, I'll double it up next week, I'll put in the time. Do be honest with yourself about the commitment that you make to your future self to put in the extra time, because what you can't do is invent more time. You can take you can sleep less, but that will catch up with you
Mm.
quick because
Mm.
With you,
all
baby.
it'll do is like you're like, there, I did it, I didn't sleep, and I caught up, and then the following month you burn out.
Please
Yeah.
sleep.
So yeah, please, please, please don't promise you will let your future self make up for it. Don't put the pressure on yourself of releasing something before it's ready. If you have like an unpredictable schedule, which has been my challenge, don't release a thing until you have a huge backlog of something that gives you that buffer that you feel like you can actually keep up with, so that if you do miss a week, a little breathing room.
So I'll add with the posting cadence. I think I started before I even launched my comic. I had about 3 months backlog, and I started off posting 2 pages a week, and that just destroyed my backlog. And it's like I don't do comics full time. Like I have to, I work a couple other jobs, and I have to carve out the time to do the comic. So at some point, I was like, I can only do 1 page this week, and I threw that out there, and then I kind of went, oh. Is this the secret sauce? Is this it? Because now I have several months of backlog only posting 1 page. So you can change what your schedule is to some extent if you're not like on kind of an editor deadline.
Yeah, if you're not on contract.
Yeah. If you're just doing it, as a project for yourself, it's like, hey,
Yeah,
And I'll add,
No
if
rules.
you're doing it in a format something like the very long vertical scroll type, episodic rather than page by page, producing one of those a week is a lot and is not the same as producing a 3-panel strip, like a syndicated type strip, once a week. That's not the same thing. If you can manage one episode like that a month, do that. Because it, again, like the long term is that you'll just burn out if you set a sort of expectation you can't meet.
Thank you. Oh, good.
Oh, just one point about an upload schedule is just make it consistent so that the audience always knows when to expect your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mine is for you, Vic.
Mhm.
You said you make a comic off your D&D game.
Yes.
So I was just kind of wondering, like, what's your process of determining what to keep in and keep out? Because we all know D&D games are this long, but comics are.
Yeah. So I actually started when we started playing our D&D game. We happened to record it, mostly just for our own entertainment. But it gave me a convenient record to be able to go back and check things. And when I started, I was like, right, every time I'm going to be writing the script, I'm going to go back and watch 4 hours per session, because that's constructive use of time, isn't it? And I very quickly realized that the story beats that I remembered from playing that game were the ones that were the story beats that had the most relevance. So a lot of the small stuff that kind of comes up in a D&D game fell by the wayside because I realized it's what contributes to the core plot. And all of the fun side quests, all of the fun little moments that as a D&D group, as players, we were like, that was an awesome moment. You can find a way, if it's really, really important, if it's a standout memory and you really want to include it, you can find a way to recreate the essence of that in a way that stays constructed to that core plot line. But when you're converting my first, I'm doing my comic of Destiny and Dragoons in a chapter by chapter format, and there's about 10 chapters for what will be the first book, and that equated to 20 sessions of D&D each that were like 4 or 5 hours apiece. So there's a lot of fluff in that, and so I had to decide, like, what's the BBG of that arc, what is the core plotline, all the things that contribute to that, and what is a way that if there is something that it was just too good a moment and I loved it too much, it was too representative of the vibe and the fun of that part of the game, how can I make sure that that serves that core story? As an independent creator who has a day job, I can't draw that much. I will never get there. I'm already going to make this until I die. I've been playing that game for 7 years. And so to streamline it and to remind myself of the story I actually want to tell. The story I want to tell to people who are going to read it is not that really awesome fun joke that like Nick and my D&D group made. That's for us.
Mhm.
The story I want to tell has to be a lot more streamlined.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey guys, I got a question for everyone on the panel. I was wondering how y'all dealt with writers and art block, because I know that that was a big thing for me when I was trying to start my own story, or even when it came to like starting my own video game. Like writing and art was like a big thing that always stopped me. So how have y'all overcame that?
Okay, if I could take this real fast. I love this story. Or that, well, not story. This is a concept, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, writer's block, oh, that's terrible." Here's the thing: I find most writers don't do is allow themselves to just sort of ruminate on their stories and plan ahead and write notes. Here's how a lot of writers sit down. I'm at the computer. I've thought maybe a little bit about what I want to do. And then I say, once upon a time, this happened and that happened. Then they're like, what happened next? Oh my God. And you hit that writer's block because writing, what we get taught is that writing is magic. No, it's not, man. It's not magic. It's hard work like anything. And it takes that time ahead of time. Get a writing like buddy, right? They don't have to write with you, but tell them your story out loud. Get it out of your mouth, right?
Okay.
What's in your noggin is going to be streamlined by you actually chit-chatting with somebody. So I want you to do that, number one. Number two, I want you to start breaking down. Remember how in school they made you do outlines and stuff for your papers that you wrote? Guess what? It works for your writing as well. Yes, do that. When I'm writing a script, guys, I'm not just like, panel one, da 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 da, and then they said da 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 da. I only have so much space because, again, time-wise and space-wise, right? I only have so many pages I can print on here. That's all at a premium. So what I want you to do is I want you to, first of all, say, hey, this season or whatever, this happens, this happens, this happens, the end. All right, that gives me a good starting point. From there, I can break it down and I say, this little story arc, this happens, this happens, this happens, the end, right? I'm chunking it down into smaller and smaller pieces until I get to my actual script. And what that does is every time you do it, you got a roadmap for where you're going. So you're not like, what am I going to write about today? You know, because you've gone through it. It doesn't mean that you can't make edits. It means you've got a great start.
One of the things I found out when I hit writer's block is to listen to my characters, because writer's block I've found, well, when I get it, is my characters telling me, what you're planning ain't working for me. I listen to my characters and they will tell me to go in different directions that I'd intended. If you know your characters well, they'll direct the story for you. And if you're getting resistant about what you're writing, think about, well, what if I took the character in another way? The character wants to go this way. So just listen to your characters, pay attention to them, and they may direct you into places you had no planning of going, but it ends up being better.
What about like the art side of it? Oh boy. If you have artist block, the thing that I like to do is just draw something else for a little bit. Like, you can just take a little break. I am a big advocate of taking breaks. Whether that's like draw something else, draw something for fun. You know, you might just be getting in your own head about like, oh, I gotta make pages, and you might just be like kind of tricking yourself into thinking like, oh, this isn't fun, So just draw something else for a bit. Or that could also be, maybe I don't draw at all today. Maybe I go outside and go on a hike or something. You know,
Touch that grass.
touch the grass. They keep saying it, but it works.
It does. I think as well there's I mean the productivity curse, like the idea that we all have to be like churning everything out and everything that we produce has to be a commodity that you can sell, otherwise we're not being productive humans, is a lot of pressure to put on yourself. So I think taking some of that pressure off if you can, and remembering like not to diminish what we do, but don't take yourself so seriously either. take a little bit of the pressure off of it. And with that comes the ability then to take a break if you need to go touch the grass, to draw something else. And I think if something like art block or writer's block on a particular project keeps coming up, it's okay to ask yourself if this is the right project to be doing. It's okay, like if you've don't worry about if you've said to people, hey, I'm doing this new project, I've got this comic, or I've started this comic and it's going great for like 6 months, and you're like, you know what, I hate it actually, I wish I hadn't started. Then you can find a way to wrap it up. You can take a pause on it and say, I'm going to go explore a different project for a little bit or something like that. You can be really honest about it. I think that there's I know a writer who was working on a novel series for 20-something years, and she just couldn't crack it. And she couldn't, like, she was always working on it. And then one day I was like, what happened to your novel series? And she's like, honestly, I decided to just write fanfic because that makes me happy. And I was like, but your novel series, it was so good. And she said something to me that shook me to my core. She said, I don't owe the world a novel. And I was like, oh. So yeah, find something that you love as well, because like webcomics are a lot of work. You have to love it or it's not going to be sustainable. So if you don't find the right project right out of the gate, that's okay. It's okay to switch gears.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Hello. As somebody who has most of the writing stuff and not any of the art stuff, I haven't actually started anything yet. So the question is, if I want to avoid a disappointing ending to my story, do I need to pick in advance if I'm going to make it graphic novel length or if it's going to go for the next 25 years?
I would have an idea.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's going to be all about the pacing, right?
Yeah. Because graphic novels are paced differently than, three-panel comic strips.
We all lived with filler for anime for years. Did we love it? No. Then don't put filler in your story. And also for you, like, you want to get it done in a decent amount of time, because as we talked about, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of, sometimes money, especially getting started. Make it what you want to make it, right? I think a lot of comic people too will be like, ooh, I'm going to make the next Marvel and DC ongoing thing forever. Well, those came out at a very different time. And also they did some very dubious legal things to be able to get the kind of power that they have right now. That's not necessarily open to every single human being. So if you're going to have an ongoing forever, cool, make it open-ended and stuff. But if it is solid and, finite, figure it out. Don't be afraid to change the ending. The ending to this, completely different than what I had fully set out to do, right? That's okay. I did know generally where it was going, and I knew how long it was going to be.
Yeah, Kevin and Kel is ongoing, 30 years and counting, but within that, there's a lot of 1 or 2 week stories and a lot of just standalone gags. So the key is to make a payoff for the reader on a regular basis, so they don't have to go through a year or two before there's a payoff. If the payoffs keep coming on a daily basis, then you have the reader and they appreciate the moment of reading that day, plus the added moment, the added payoff of when the story comes to a conclusion. So think of the reader.
And also think about why you're doing the comic, because there's a difference between like having a defined story to tell an idea versus just, I would like to produce regular artwork or something like that. Because there are plenty of webcomics out there as well that are a strip a week or a strip or however often, that are very open, because the goal isn't to tell a long narrative. The goal is to tell a joke every week. where the goal is to just be a form of expression for yourself that you want to share with people. And then those sorts of things can evolve. So I think have not just a narrative goal in mind, but also a fulfilling goal for yourself in mind and what you want to get out of it.
Sometimes Sarah scribbles also great.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
ongoing
Yeah.
book.
For my own personal thing, so this guy right here is going to be a long ongoing beast. I am writing sequels though, which I'll probably never get to. But just keep in mind that like if you have your kind of main story, whatever that turns out to be, you can always keep doing more. Marvel's doing it in the movies. They keep making movies, you know? Like you can always just continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is to all of y'all. I'm just wondering how for like writers or artists, how do you find like artist to work with or like a writer to work with? Like what? Yeah.
Your teammate.
Yes.
Once again, hands up if you're a writer.
This is a
Okay,
networking
look around
event.
the room. Hands up if you're an artist. Okay, look around the room. And hands up if you're comfortable walking up to a complete stranger and saying, "Would you like to collaborate?" I think that is the piece. Like the first piece of it is there's finding the spaces to do it, which I think like if people have thoughts on that, I'd love to hear that because I've worked solo mostly. And then it's having the confidence to do so, or the confidence, the comfort to do so. I think you don't have to be like a ball of charisma to go do it and to sort of sell the idea of collaborate with me. But you can.
It doesn't hurt them.
Yes.
But just embrace the idea that there are how you feel about whether you're on the writer side or the artist side, how you feel about wishing you could find somebody else to work with. There is someone on the other side who feels the same. And it's just a matter of like finding that connection and letting the sort of like nerves about that get out of the way.
Okay. So, as somebody who's collaborated with a lot of people on a lot of projects and done things, like I am gonna say, for the writers, a lot of the impetus is on you. I'll show you why again with my hand tricks. Takes this long to write it, it takes that long to draw it. Oh my god! Very different. You're asking very different jobs that take a lot of dedication. So, writers, first of all, what I want you to do is I want you to have a solid idea of what this story is. This isn't about bringing somebody on and noodling forever. I want you to know what it is. I want you to have actual scripts written. These might change somewhat when you get an artist on because they're going to have feedback and you might be like, brilliant, something else. It would be nice if you had money when you're starting out. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're both super, super green. And that's okay. Money is always preferred because, again, this versus this. When you're doing an art job and you're trying to get it done, you know, in a reasonable amount of time, it easily becomes your full-time job. So saying like, hey, man, you don't have any time to do anything else, but would you do this for free? That's tough, right? So think about too, like, hey, what if we did not a fully illustrated thing? What if it was a light novel? What if it was this? What if it was just the cover? Find ways to start building relationships with people, right? Rather than being like, hello, I'm a writer. And would you just draw everything for me because I am awesome? Trust me, it's okay, right? You know, I want you to have some things behind you. But if you start small by just like being like, hey man, could you do a commission for me? And if they can get that done because other artists, God love you. You don't get your shit done. Yeah. Major beef with that. Have a conversation. But if they can get a simple commission done, okay. Might be worth working with. If they can't get that simple commission done, thank you so much. Look for another artist, right? But this is on you. You've got it. And yeah, it doesn't hurt to get used to talking to people. Because I want to say one more thing that you're going to have to do. Oh, you're going to hate this. Or you're going to love it. You might just be here because you like writing and drawing things, but guess what you really are? A salesman for the rest of your life. you're behind the table, you're talking to publishers, you're talking to all these people, and you're like, woo, 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 get this thing because it's awesome. And you have to do it in such a way, too, that you're not like, woo, 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 it's awesome, because nobody likes that. You're just somebody's friend for a while. You know your shit is good. If they ask about it, you can give the best goddamn elevator pitch in the world, so they got to get it. And you've given them a deal, right? Oh, they love deals. But that's the thing is, you don't want to be your marketing person, but that is the job. Get used to it, and you'll go far.
I think applying for zines and things is a good shout as well, because
Also
often those are places where you, for a small limited project, you get paired up with people, and you can make connections that way and figure out how you work with people.
Absolutely.
But be good to work with yourself as well. So not just seeking somebody who you can work with, but my experience of things is that like people would rather work with or rather hire someone who's good to work with above somebody who's technically good. So somebody who like their work's amazing, but they are a nightmare. You'll take someone whose work is maybe slightly less good because they're great to work with.
100%. Yes. 100%.
Thank you.
Question from the chat.
Great panel, everybody. We have a stream queue from the chat, just so everyone knows we do stream these on Twitch. From Twitch user Alex and Birds, what are some tips for consistency across the life of writing / illustrating the comic? I'll hang up and listen.
Consistency.
Consistency.
I let my characters evolve. You would recognize them from 30 years ago, but their appearance has kind of changed as my style has changed. Kevin and Kel is the land where model sheets forgot. I just try to grow as an artist, and my characters grow with me.
Yeah, style change is kind of inevitable. You know, when I started adapting my thing into book form, I kind of went back and I was like, I shouldn't redraw all of this, right? That would be bad. That would be real. No, I didn't. No, no. So you kind of, at some point, you have to accept the fact that like how you started is not going to look like your most current page.
Yeah, it's part of the beauty of long form webcomics, I think, is to embrace that it's going to look different from page 1 to the most recent page. That said, my piece of advice is simplify everything. Aside from how long it takes to draw complex characters or complex locations, and a bit of this is about style preference, sure, but you can still make choices that are smart in your design for characters. So the like hyper detailed sort of video game anime looking characters who have like accessories everywhere and they're asymmetrical, and just don't do it to yourself, because that's where the style is going to wander a lot. I do have model sheets for my characters, and for each new chapter of my book, I've redrawn my character model sheets, because I'm like, this is the version I'm starting this chapter with, and I know what the key elements are to pay attention to, and the key elements to the sort of are the focal points of the design of the character, and the unnecessary accessories I've ditched along the way.
So, as the person who did go back and redo season 1 of one of her comics,
So much work.
it was so much work. But I had, for what I was trying to do, kind of had to be done. What a fucking bummer. Don't do what I did. I'm here to give you a cautionary tale. Here's what you do. Like I said, you've got this epic story. Do not tell it first. You're not ready. You've got smaller stories. Do the smaller stories first. As a matter of fact, when you're a new artist and a new writer, you're going to do the most growth then, right? The more you fall into this, you will grow, but it will be like just not as noticeable because you're becoming you. And so get the smaller stories. Like I would have done 2 or 3 like Rainbow in the Darks, one and done, right, series. If I had been young or like smarter, if I could, Jenny last night was like, if I could text myself, right, my past self, I would say like, hey man, don't do the uniques first. Do those other smaller stories, make them 6 issues, very doable, cut your teeth, get good, and then when you're ready, it's epic story time. And then that way too, you will have become more of yourself, and like the style side and the writing side will just not be as big and crazy, and you won't have to do what I did. So that's the key. There you go. All right.
All right, we got time for one more.
I apologize if this was already said. I had to step out for a moment. How do you? Because I have a lot of stories that I want to tell, but I don't know how to turn them into like a plot. It's like, oh, I want this to happen and this to happen, but it's like I can't figure out the order or like
The
how
connective
do
tissue.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your tips on that?
Just come up with a reason for your characters to have the actions that you're deploying. Um, Character motivation is one of the great things to keep in mind in writing continuity. Why is my character doing this? What is their motivation? What are their goals? That could be the connective tissue.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, what are their actions? What are going to be the consequences of those actions? Because that will inform what happens next. That will inform what other characters do or say to them, and how the world changes around them. So if you're going for a character-driven story, like you said, think about what the character is going to do, and things will kind of start to fall into place as they do those actions.
I'm a whiteboard person. I like to take things out of my head and put them in front of myself. So I have whiteboards everywhere in my home, and I also use virtual whiteboard. You can get a bunch of free. There's like Miro is the one I use, where you can sign up for a free account for an infinite whiteboard and create little virtual sticky notes. And all of the ideas you have, all the things that you want to do, I've done this exercise where I said, I have a story I want to tell, or I think I have a story I want to tell, and here's what I think that plot line is going to be, and here's the start sticky note, here's where I know I want to end it, or here's a few ideas of where I think I want to end it, and then write everything else out on a sticky note, step back and look at it, and then you will start to say, this idea excites me, I'm putting that in the middle. This idea I think is important, I'm putting that in the middle, and you'll start to see a through line, and you want to try and, if the idea is to put all of these things into one story, identify what is going to serve that true through line to get to the end place. Sometimes the ideas, as much as you love them and you're kind of precious about them, aren't going to serve that, and you kind of have to just like park it. Like I've got a bucket of ideas that one day I'll get to or find a way to incorporate into things. But it's identifying what you care about, what sparks joy and excitement in you as a creator, and finding the things that are going to best serve that.
I think those are good answers. Yeah. And if you want, go find again a writing partner to talk with. Like even they don't have to be helping you write, get it out. And by doing that, that is definitely going to help you out, like putting together those puzzle pieces in your mind. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right, we're getting ready to
minutes.
wrap up here.
All right.
All right, everybody say where people can find you, what you're working on, what panels you're doing here at DragonCon. Go.
Why don't you start? You're at the end.
Oh, hi, I'm Casey. I write and draw a webcomic called B-Side You. I have a copy up here if you want to take a peek at it. I got some postcards that you can take. I got business cards. I am part of a network called Airtime for Nonsense with a bunch of really, really awesome people. We do a lot of shows and podcasts and art streams. So yeah, go for it, Vic.
I'm Vic Idstar. You can find me at Idstar across all of the internet. I do make a regular webcomic based on my D&D game of Destiny and Dragoons. I have a mini comic called Moonbeams about queer werewolves in a coffee shop. I have a children's book. I have also a couple of other projects that are coming out later this year. I've got another webcomic coming called Secrets of Bright Dark. I've got a podcast coming, which is also starring Casey, actually, which is a TTRPG actual play about high school kids in a town full of magic. And I've got a bunch of information about all of that. There's a bunch of stuff over the table. Young Vale is the podcast. There's some stickers and cards and things. And yeah, it's a lot.
Fantastic. I am going to be, you can always find me on the interwebs at Comfort and Adam everywhere. Make sure that handle is always the same for all of you guys too, and keep it consistent. One last little bit of info. If you want to read my stuff, it is still up on Webtoon, even though I've been having to do other jobs because, again, the nonprofit work that I didn't need to be in, and now I am in, that is taking up a lot of my time, but you can read them on Webtoon. The Neeks, Rainbow in the Dark. I am also going to be in Artist Alley or Comics and Pop Art Alley all weekend long. Table 630. I will give you a card. This card is also here to remind you when you have a table and you have a place that people want to find you at. You're going to put the table number on it, so when they come by, you give it to them. They can find you again. Awesome. And then I am also running several panels here. I'm going to do Let's All Play an RPG, where we all make a character together and we play it, as a collective. And then Bug Scientists and Superheroes. That's at 2:30 today here in the Hilton.
And I'm Bill Holbrook. I do Kevin and Cal, the longest running webcomic since 1995. That's at kevinandkel.com. And this weekend I am at table 310 in the Artist Alley.
Wow. Fantastic. All right.
Okay, before we go, we have another QR code for you to look at. We have a Google Drive of free comics resources, helpful hints, and we got templates, we got links. And we also, over here, there's a QR code over there. You can also find some free comic page templates for you to take home and start that comic.
Just start it. Oh, I totally forgot to say. I just literally finished it yesterday. I put an ebook with top 10 tips I've learned from making comics that's free in that resource as well. So, and if anyone wants a comic, come grab one.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. Go make. Go forth. Make comics.
Make comics.
Yeah.